Have you ever felt chills hearing the roar of a classic V8? The 1960s gave us more than just cars. They gave us legends on wheels, brutal muscle cars designed with elegance and hearts of steel that still today make millions of hearts race, imposing machines with aggressive lines and engines that sounded like they were roaring straight from hell, but with a beauty so irresistible they looked like works of art. And today, we're diving into the best of that golden era, a selection of 10 muscle cars from the 1960s that didn't just mark a generation, they defined what brutal beauty really means. Each one of these models has history, has character, and has a roar that still echoes in the soul of anyone who lived through that golden age of motoring. But before we hit the gas, tell us something from the heart. Which one of these muscle cars lives in your memory? Which one made you turn your head for the first time? Or which one have you always dreamed of having in your garage? Your story matters. Here, we're a community of nostalgic dreamers and passionate fans, united by our love for these giants of steel. Every comment you share inspires someone else. Every memory shared builds connection. So if this content makes you feel as electrified as we did creating it, give us a like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because here we celebrate the era when cars were art, muscle, and soul. And this is just the beginning. 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge. The 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge wasn't just a muscle car, it was a declaration of rebellion, a defiant response to the competition, and a masterpiece of boldness on wheels. Born in an era of raw power and street races, this GTO didn't settle for being fast. It had to be unforgettable. Pontiac launched the Judge as a special version of the standard GTO. And oh, it was special. Starting with its most iconic color, carousel red, which was actually a bright orange that burned like fire under the sun. They added sporty stripes, a rear spoiler that did nothing aerodynamically, but made it look absolutely lethal, and a badge that read, "The Judge," with a "I'm in charge here" kind of attitude. Under the hood, a 6.6-liter Ram Air 3 V8 waited to be unleashed, producing 366 horsepower. And if you opted for the Ram Air 4, you could reach 370 horsepower with high-performance upgrades. The transmission could be manual or automatic, but what truly mattered was the sheer brutality you felt when you stomped the accelerator. The car could hit 134 miles per hour, but the most impressive part was the savage acceleration and the exhaust sound, which was practically a public disturbance. Around 6,833 units of the Judge were produced in 1969, making it relatively rare today. Current value? A well-preserved GTO Judge can go for over $120,000 at auction, but its emotional value for those who lived it or dreamed of it is beyond measure. Fun fact, the name, The Judge, was inspired by a comedy sketch from the TV show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, an unexpected satire that ended up giving identity to one of the most outrageous, fun, and iconic muscle cars of all time. This wasn't a car for someone who wanted to blend in. It was for the one who wanted to rule the street with a half smile and the roar of a V8 as their theme song. 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. If the original 1964 Mustang was a symbol of youthful freedom, the 1969 Mach 1 was the version that grew up, hit the gym, and came back as a full-blown asphalt predator. The name Mach 1 wasn't chosen by accident. It was a direct reference to the speed of sound, and while this Mustang didn't break sound barriers, it sure broke necks on the streets. Its design was more muscular, more aggressive, with a low profile, elongated hood with functional air scoops, aerodynamic lines, and matte black accents that screamed, "Don't look at me, try to keep up." But the real show started when you lifted the hood. The Mach 1 came with a range of V8 engines, but the most iconic was the 428 Cobra Jet, 7.0-liter monster that officially produced 335 horsepower. Though everyone knew Ford was downplaying those numbers to keep the insurance companies happy. In reality, that engine was closer to 400 horsepower. This Mustang could go from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 6 seconds and hit speeds up to 133 miles per hour, which for the late 60s was absolutely brutal. Add to that a sport-tuned suspension, quick-shifting gearbox, and an exhaust note that rattled your chest as it flew by. More than 72,000 units of the Mach 1 were produced in 1969, making it an instant sales success. But today, finding one in great condition, especially with an original Cobra jet, is like striking gold in the desert. Prices can easily exceed $150,000 depending on the specs and originality. Here's a fascinating detail. The Mach 1 didn't just replace the GT and the Mustang lineup that year. It also forced Chevrolet to respond with wilder versions of the Camaro. It was part of a horsepower war that defined the era and elevated the Mustang into a new level of cult status. The 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1 wasn't just a fast car, it was a threat wrapped in elegance, a beast dressed to kill. 1969 Dodge Charger RT. If we had to sculpt the soul of the American muscle car into a single body, this would be it. The 1969 Charger wasn't just a car. It was a declaration of war on wheels, a creature of steel and muscle that combined mechanical violence with dark elegance. Its long silhouette, fast back roofline, and hidden headlights, tucked behind a grille as wide as a villain's grin, everything about it looked like it came straight out of an action film, where the good guy's a little bad and the bad guy is absolutely irresistible. The RT version, short for road track, was the most aggressive Charger you could get that year. Beneath its massive flat hood roared a 440 Magnum 5.8 engine, producing a brutal 375 horsepower and over 650 Newton-meters of torque, all delivered straight to the rear wheels. And for the insatiable, Dodge offered the legendary 426 HEMI, officially rated at 425 horsepower, though in practice, it pushed well over 470 real horses. With either of these two beasts under the hood, the Charger RT could launch from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 5.4 seconds and reach a top speed of nearly 137 miles per hour. Not bad for a car weighing over 1,800 kilograms, but what truly won people over was its presence. It didn't need to move to intimidate. You felt it just standing still. Only about 20,057 units of the Charger RT were built in 1969, making it a prized collector's item today. A fully restored example, especially with a Hemi, can fetch over $170,000 at high-end auctions. It was immortalized in legendary chase scenes, like in Bullitt, 1968, and later revived for a new generation through Fast and Furious, where Dominic Toretto turned it into a symbol of raw power and unshakable respect. Fun fact, though it's often associated with speed and fury, many owners loved the Charger for its comfort and luxury. The RT didn't just roar like a beast, it could be your daily driver, if you didn't mind guzzling fuel like you owned an oil field. And now, I want you to be part of this story. Do you remember the first time you saw a Charger like this? Was it on the street, in a movie, in a garage? Or did you have the privilege of driving one yourself? Drop your story in the comments below, because sometimes one simple memory can make hearts race faster than any V8 ever could. 1968 Plymouth Road Runner. At a time when muscle cars were starting to fill up with luxury chrome and gadgets, Plymouth did the exact opposite. It went back to basics. They stripped away the unnecessary, lowered the price, and built a car that roared like a beast but cost as little as a compact. That's how the Plymouth Road Runner was born, the true bad boy of the block. Inspired by the famous Warner Brothers cartoon character, the Road Runner didn't just borrow the name, it even borrowed the sound. Plymouth paid $50,000 in licensing rights just so the horn could make the iconic beep beep sound, a playful detail for a car that was anything but a toy. Under the hood, The base Roadrunner came with a 383 Magnum 5.8 engine, pushing out 335 horsepower. But if that wasn't enough, you could upgrade to the legendary 426 Hime, unleashing a wild 425 horsepower, enough to leave most other muscle cars of the era in the dust. Depending on the version, this machine could rocket from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just over 5.5 seconds. Luxury? Forget it. No carpets, no excessive chrome, no decorative badging. The interior was Spartan, built for driving, not showing off. And that's exactly where the magic was. Brutal honesty. Everything you needed to stomp the gas and shake the pavement, and it was a massive hit. Plymouth had hoped to sell around 20,000 units, but in 1968 alone, they moved over 45,000 Roadrunners, smashing expectations. Today, an original model, especially with a Hime and in good condition, can easily fetch over $120,000, depending on its rarity and state of preservation. Fun fact, the Roadrunner helped popularize the idea of the budget muscle car. Its success inspired other manufacturers to create their own lightweight, high-performance versions, permanently changing how the public saw accessible power. The 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner didn't need luxury or flash. All it took was a brutal engine, an aggressive stance, and a horn that made you laugh right before it left you in a cloud of smoke. 1966, Chevelle SS 396. This was the muscle car that raised the bar for what power with class truly meant. In a decade where every manufacturer was trying to build the loudest, flashiest, most outrageous car on the block, Chevrolet took a different route. A clean design with the soul of a savage beast. The Supersport SS version had been introduced as an optional package in 1965, but by 1966, it had earned its own standalone model within the Chevelle lineup. And what a debut it was. Straight, sharp lines, balanced proportions, and that front end with dual headlights that looked calm until you heard it roar to life. Under the hood, a 396 cubic inch big block V8 offered in 3 power variants. The most common delivered 325 horsepower, but the more aggressive versions cranked it up to 375 horsepower. No matter the configuration, the torque was monstrous, and acceleration could take you from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 6 seconds, depending on the driver and transmission. Unlike some of its more chaotic competitors, the Chevelle SS struck an almost perfect balance between brute force, handling, and comfort. It wasn't just a tire-burning machine. You could take it cross-country in style and still intimidate everyone at every red light. More than 72,000 units of the Chevelle SS 396 were built in 1966, making it a massive success. Today, it's a highly sought-after classic, especially models with the Muncie 4-speed manual and rare factory options. In auctions, they can easily surpass $100,000, depending on originality and condition. Fun fact, although the Chevelle SS is often seen as a symbol of American muscle power, many remember it as the car of the cool dad, the guy who didn't settle for a boring sedan and instead rolled up in a muscle car with a family soul and a racetrack heart. The 1966 Chevelle SS 396 proved that brutality can be elegant and that sometimes true power doesn't need to show off. It just needs to accelerate. 1967 Chevrolet Camaro SS 396. When Chevrolet witnessed the explosive success of the Mustang, they knew they had to respond, but not with just any car. They needed a machine that blended beauty, fury, and pure street attitude. That's how the Camaro was born in 1967, and among all its variants, one left a mark through raw force and flawless silhouette, the Camaro SS 396. This was the very first production year of the model, and the SS Supersport variant proudly carried the American muscle flag. Visually, the Camaro was irresistible. Long, flowing lines, low slung roof, an aggressive grille, and that bad boy aura that didn't ask for permission to enter, it just took over the scene. Under the hood, the star was the optional 396 cubic inch big block 5.8, available in two versions, one with 325 horsepower and another beastlier version pumping out 375 horsepower. The torque was so intense you could leave rubber on the asphalt without even leaving the parking lot. Paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission and a reinforced suspension, the Camaro SS 396 didn't just run, it devoured corners and straightaways with equal ferocity. It could hit 130 miles per hour and accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 6 seconds, figures that made its rivals sweat and left bystanders breathless. Chevrolet also offered the RS Rally Sport package, adding hidden headlights and even more imposing styling details. In total, around 34,000 Camaro SS units were produced in 1967, making it a relatively scarce classic today. An original example in good condition, especially with the coveted 396 engine and the RS package, can easily sell for over $120,000 at auction. Fun fact, although Chevrolet never officially offered the 396 in some trim combinations, dealerships often performed unofficial conversions upon request, creating rare hybrid versions that are now even more coveted among collectors. The 1967 Camaro SS 396 was the perfect debut for a model destined to become a legend, because you never get a second chance at a first impression, and this car made its entrance with a roar you'd never forget. Now, we want to hear your story. What does the 67 Camaro mean to you? Did you own one? Dream of it? See it in a movie and fall in love instantly? Share it in the comments, because your memory might just be the spark that makes another muscle car lover's heart beat a little louder. 1969, Mercury Cougar Eliminator. If the Mustang was Ford's rebellious son, the Mercury Cougar was its elegant cousin, who also knew how to throw down. And when the Eliminator package arrived in 1969, the Cougar dropped the refined manners and transformed into a beast ready for war. The Cougar Eliminator was Mercury's direct answer to the rise of high-performance muscle cars. Style alone was no longer enough. You had to roar, run, and leave a mark. Visually, it was impossible to ignore. Bold paint colors like grabber blue or competition orange, black racing stripes, a rear spoiler, hood scoop, and an attitude that said, "I'll see you at the track, and I'll be ahead of you." Under the hood, Mercury offered a range of V8 options, but the crown jewel was the 428 Cobra Jet, a 7.0-liter powerhouse officially rated at 335 horsepower, though in reality, it crept dangerously close to 400 HP. There were even more aggressive versions with the Boss 302 engine, built specifically to homologate the Cougar for Trans Am racing. This wasn't a muscle car for show. It had serious teeth. This machine could launch from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 6 seconds, and its handling was shockingly refined for a muscle car. The Cougar retained some of that upscale flair with an interior that was more polished than its direct rivals, but make no mistake, it could be just as brutal as any Detroit beast. Only 2,250 units of the Cougar Eliminator were produced in 1969, making it an extremely rare and highly coveted collector's item today. Original models equipped with a Cobra Jet engine and proper documentation can command over $140,000 at auction. Fun fact, even though it was overshadowed by the Mustang in sales, the Cougar Eliminator was so potent that many private racers preferred it for underground street races thanks to its deadly combo of torque, balance, and reliability. The Mercury Cougar Eliminator might not have been the most famous muscle car of its time, but it was one of the most complete, an elegant predator that knew exactly when to roar and when to strike. 1969 AMC AMX. In a world dominated by giants like Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge, no one really expected AMC, a brand better known for family sedans, to step into the muscle car arena with any real weight. But in 1969, they stunned the industry with a compact, powerful machine with a name as short as its acceleration, the AMX. This car was a bold move. While most muscle cars were getting bigger, heavier, and more flamboyant, AMC went the opposite direction, building a two-seater that was shorter, lighter, and ready to tear up the pavement. It was a compact muscle car with the heart of a titan. Under the hood, it packed a formidable 390 cubic inch V8, producing a solid 315 horsepower and over 580 newton meters of torque. Thanks to its low weight, the AMX could accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 6.5 seconds, leaving behind many bigger, more expensive muscle cars. But the AMX wasn't just fast, it had attitude. Its clean, sporty, muscular design and driver-focused cabin made it a car that practically begged to be driven hard, but with style. It didn't need flashy chrome or excessive trim. The AMX was pure muscle, no makeup. In 1969, AMC produced only 8,293 units, making it a relatively rare find today. On top of that, AMC offered something unique, a program called AM Experience, where buyers could pick up their car directly from the brand's test track, complete with a personalized plaque bearing their name, a small but powerful gesture that strengthened the emotional bond between driver and machine. Fun fact, the AMX was the only American two-seater muscle car in production since the Corvette, putting it in an exclusive category. It was like a mini Corvette with the soul of a muscle car and the street-fighting attitude to match. 1965 Shelby GT350. In 1965, Carroll Shelby took a fresh-off-the-line Mustang, tore it down piece by piece, and rebuilt it into something entirely different. The result was the Shelby GT350, a muscle car that wasn't just powerful. It was practically a street-legal weapon. This wasn't a car for just anyone. It was for the driver who wanted to feel the engine roar in their chest, smell burning rubber, and, if they were bold enough, take it to the track and come back grinning ear to ear. The GT350 retained the base of the Mustang fastback, but the modifications ran deep. The engine was a 289 high-performance full-8 4.7 liters, tuned by Shelby to produce around 306 horsepower. That might seem modest compared to the 7-liter giants of the time, but the real magic was in the reduced weight and finely tuned chassis. This wasn't a straight-line bruiser. It was built to devour corners like a race car. The suspension was beefed up, the steering sharpened, unnecessary components were stripped out, and even the battery was relocated for better weight balance. The result? A car that could launch from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just over 6 seconds with a dry, savage exhaust note that sounded like it came straight out of Le Mans. The interior was minimalist, almost Spartan, a massive tachometer and little else. Shelby didn't care about luxury. He cared about feel, about feedback, about soul. Only 562 units of the GT350 were built in 1965, all in Wimbledon white with blue racing stripes, though a few were custom painted. Today, finding one in original, well-preserved condition is like finding a unicorn in the desert. These cars can go for over $500,000 at international auctions. Fun fact, Shelby came up with the GT350 name completely at random. One day, he asked how many feet separated his shop from the assembly building. The answer was 350. He nodded and said, "Sounds good. GT350 it is." And just like that, one of the most legendary names in motorsport history was born. The Shelby GT350 wasn't made to show off. It was made to drive, to feel, to accelerate like it's your last time behind the wheel. And now it's your turn. If you had to choose between this Shelby and any other classic Mustang, which one would you take and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 1967 Chevrolet Impala SS 427. Some cars are born to race, others to impress. And then there are those rare machines that manage to do both without sacrificing a shred of class. That was the Chevrolet Impala SS 427, a brute in a tuxedo. The Impala had already made a name for itself on American roads since the late 50s. But in 1967, Chevrolet decided to push it to the limit, creating a super sport version that quietly hid a monster under the hood. The body was still large, elegant, with smooth lines, a wide grille, and twin headlights that gave it a commanding presence. But the moment you heard the engine roar, you knew. This wasn't just a Sunday cruiser. At its heart lay a 427 cubic inch big block 5.8, pumping out an impressive 385 horsepower and a massive 620 newton meters of torque. With either a Muncie manual or turbo-hydromatic automatic transmission, the Impala SS could go from 0 to 62 miles per hour in around 6.5 seconds, a remarkable feat considering it weighed over 1,900 kilograms. And yet, it cruised as smoothly as a Cadillac, until you decided to drop the hammer. Only a few thousand units were built with the 427 engine in 1967, making this version a highly coveted collector's gem. Today, a pristine Impala SS can easily fetch over $110,000. And its value continues to climb as enthusiasts recognize it as one of the most elegant muscle cars of its time. Fun fact, while the Camaro and Chevelle hogged the spotlight as youthful street fighters, the Impala SS 427 was the car for men who already knew what they wanted. It didn't need to prove anything. Its size, power, and presence said it all. It was the muscle car for the mature driver, the man who appreciated strength wrapped in sophistication and was never in a hurry, because he knew he could win whenever he wanted. The 1967 Chevrolet Impala SS 427 was, and still is, a symbol of quiet power, a colossus that stared you down and left you behind without breaking a sweat. And there you have it, 10 muscle cars from the 1960s, as brutal as they were beautiful, each one with its own personality, its own unforgettable roar, and a story that still lives on in the hearts of true classic car lovers. But now we want to hear from you. Which one of these monsters would you put in your dream garage? Which one made you smile, sigh, or remember something special? Drop your comment below. Never underestimate the power of your story, because what you share might awaken memories in someone else and strengthen the amazing community we're building together. Here, we don't just talk about cars. We talk about passion, legacy, and emotions that don't rust with time. If this ride through history stirred something in you, give it a like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because this is only a small part of the glorious automotive archive we have in store for you. And if you want to keep traveling through time, don't miss our video on the 10 most beautiful American cars of the 1950s. They're absolute gems that look like they came straight out of a dream. And trust me, they'll steal your heart. See you there.